Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is Batman, issue number 245, dated October 1972. And I can take a look at the cover here. We see Batman. He's in complete anguish in this completely blank background. And apparently, Bruce Wayne has been murdered, and there has been a politician has been accused. And of course, the angst that Batman is going through is one, he's pretty sure he's Bruce Wayne. And he realizes that an innocent man will go to prison for this. Because apparently he can't say that he killed Bruce Wayne. And obviously, clearly going through some type of mental moment here. The one thing I will say about this cover, and it looks like it's a Neal Adams cover, it's a little surprising, is the anatomy that Batman is displaying here. It does kind of look a little odd, both the way it's drawn and kind of the shadowing. So that's a little bit surprising because usually Neal is quite good at anatomy here. And one of the reasons I want to take a look at this comic is because of all the Adams issues, I feel like this is the one that's most overlooked. I think part of that was because this came after the conclusion of the Raja Ghul storyline, which is remembered quite fondly. I remember it's really great. And I think because people tend to focus on that, this is sort of an issue that kind of got maybe pushed aside and marginalized a little bit. Also, this came out during the time where Adams was completing really the last great run on Green Lantern, Green Arrow. His very last comic for that series was not really well regarded. So I think this is an issue that kind of gets lost. So I'm going to go into it. Now it's broken into A and B. So Batman obviously is the A story, and there is a B story with Robin, which is actually kind of an entertaining story and a well-drawn one too, I should say, by Irv Novak. So I'm going to go into it, and I'm going to take a look at the splash page. And we're told that the title of this story is The Bruce Wayne Murder Case. And this is a story by Denny O'Neil, and the art is by Neal Adams and Dick Giordano, and it's edited by Jules Swartz. And everyone did a really good job with this book here. So we take a look at the splash page. Batman isn't centering the action, though he is swinging into it. We see two individuals who we know are political bosses, and they're arguing with each other, and it looks like it might get physical. Now Commissioner Gordon is in the middle of this, and he's going to stop this fight. Now, Commissioner Gordon, he's nowhere to be found when the Joker and Penguin are kind of starting trouble. But with these two guys, he's like, hey, listen, I'll push you guys around. But nevertheless, these are two powerful political bosses, the two powerful political bosses in Gotham City. So it's kind of interesting. One aspect to this story is that, there are people who, Bruce Wayne has to deal with. And these are two individuals that he has to deal with who are less than being on the up and up, which is something that was, known about political bosses for hundreds of years. So it acknowledges that as much as Batman is swinging around Gotham City, he really isn't fixing the root causes of corruption. And it makes you wonder that maybe Bruce Wayne could do a lot more, than allow himself to be pushed around by these guys. But that's not as much fun. It's kind of like riding the Batmobile and socking people. So anyway, Batman is swinging into action here. One of the political bosses is accusing the other of slander. We get an idea of what this argument is because they're not going to give us that expository dialogue. And there's a headline that reads, Bilker accuses rival of Wayne murder. So at this point, Bruce Wayne was reported as being murdered. I think that had to do something with the Raja Ghul storyline, where he needed to make someone believe that Bruce Wayne was murdered. He had to do this, and it looks like one of these political bosses is taking advantage of this opportunity. So I'm going to turn the page. So anyways, it's really getting physical with these two. One of them has been accused of murdering a billionaire, so he's really upset about that. However, just as the political boss who's being accused, he's about to sock the other one, Batman, he lands, he swings in, he's able to physically stop this fight. And he must be thinking, God damn it, Commissioner Gordon, I even have to do this for you? Really? You could not handle this. So Batman is doing the work of Commissioner Gordon. He's physically restraining one of the bosses here. So there won't be a fist fight. However, we get an idea that neither of these bosses care for Batman. Both of them are very irritated that he has shown up. So they're making it very clear to the reader that these are two very corrupt individuals here. They don't even appreciate the efforts of Batman. Commissioner Gordon, he's trying to explain the situation exactly in terms of what's going on. Batman, I think, was out of the country, so he needs to be kind of kept up to date here. Commissioner Gordon is kind of giving us this expository dialogue to explain what's going on. The two political bosses, they decided on their candidates. And there's a coming race for mayor. So the thing is that there's a heated rivalry to determine who's going to control the bureaucracy of Gotham City. And obviously, one of the political bosses believes that he can taint the other one with this accusation that Bruce Wayne was murdered by him, and to kind of discredit him. Batman's asking, hey, any reason why you're doing this, dude, other than the obvious? And the guy's saying, no, I'm being completely honest. I'm being completely honest. This guy, he murdered Batman, and I have the proof. And tomorrow morning, I'll present it to the public. I'll turn the page. So the one being accused is saying, listen, you better shut up. I didn't do it. You're eventually you're going to be found guilty of slander, but in the meanwhile, I have to deal with this fallout here. It also might cost me my job. So I'm really not appreciative of this asshole doing this. So the thing is that these two are still in an antagonistic mood, even though Batman has kind of broken up the fight here. Commissioner Gordon has ordered them both to go home. Commissioner Gordon and Batman, they're kind of discussing the situation. Neither of them are happy about this because neither Commissioner Gordon nor Batman particularly like these two guys. But at the same time, they know that it's of a great deal of importance to the citizens of Gotham because they'll literally decide who the next mayor is. Batman swings off. He promises to do a bit of an investigation and that he'll report back to Commissioner Gordon later on. Commissioner Gordon just kind of waves. He waves at Batman as Batman showing him his ass here. The art is really good here. I mean, it's Neal Adams, for God's sake. So anyway, Batman is thinking to himself, and he's kind of going over the events as to why he had to make the public believe that Bruce Wayne was murdered. That he was killed, I should say, and Batman. He's also thinking about the political aspect of this back and forth. Because he's trying to investigate a crime where he might actually have a vested interest in who wins. So this is an opportunity if Batman were kind of a corrupt guy. He might say, listen, maybe I should follow this lead so I can help, the party A win over than party B. But But what's being explained here is that Batman likes neither one of these guys. He sees them both as worthless, corrupt hacks. And he's kind of taking them, kind of like both sides. This argument in the 1970s that this might be the case. I remember in New York, we did have some powerful political bosses. Their power started to wane in the 1980s. It started off with a guy named Donald Maness, who was the Queens borough president. The borough presidents were really the powers in New York beside the mayor. And he ran the Queens political organization. He was the political boss for Queens, and there was a bunch of other corrupt guys. It's different in different cities. But nevertheless, here, I guess Gotham has a powerful mayor. And what's interesting is that Bruce Wayne, he's not really trying to sway the political pendulum or control it in any way. He's just simply like, you decide who you want to run, and I'll pick whichever one I'm given. So Bruce Wayne is sort of a passive billionaire in terms of affecting the political process. I'm going to turn the page. Okay, Batman, he's swinging about town. He's going to check out the offices of the two political bosses. He goes to Bilker's first. I kind of don't feel like the names of these characters are important. So anyway, Bilker is one of these political bosses. He's talking to his bodyguard here, who kind of looks like maybe a 1972 version of Neal Adams. I don't know why he would put himself in this role here. Or maybe Denny O'Neil, because he looks somewhat familiar. But anyway, Bilker is saying, he's telling his henchmen here that, hey, I'm going to lay this trap on him. And what I have is bullshit, but who cares? I think I can make the public buy it. And this will prove it. This evidence I have in this envelope here. And Batman, he comes down from the skylight into the office. He announces himself. He's saying, "Listen, I would like to see that evidence, because I kind of don't trust you here, and I want to make sure you're not, creating evidence." Bilker, he doesn't want to do that. He's saying, "Get this foul individual out of my office here," and the henchman, he immediately goes into work. He calls it my pleasure, boss. He thinks he's going to get the best of Batman here. Batman is just completely bored. He's saying, dude, I practice with guys like you. So, hey, come at me. Batman, he just simply deflects. So the bodyguard starts with a right hand. He doesn't even jab Batman. Batman, he just kind of just blocks it with no problem. Going to turn the page. Then Batman is discussing, some of the feelings that he has when he's fighting crime. He's saying, listen, I'm kind of used to guys, hitting me and throwing punches, but when I think about it, really, that you guys you're not really trained to do this. You're just big and strong and mean, and I kind of have an easy time with you. Most of these guys, they're not necessarily great fighters, but they're the type of guys who literally would punch a 90-year-old woman. So it's their meanness that makes them dangerous, and they do hit hard sometimes. Batman, he just kind of does a little karate move, puts this guy to sleep. So right now, this guy has a concussion. Batman just kind of walks to the political boss and says, I really, really, really want to see that envelope. And it's in your best interest to hand it to me. Or else I'm going to have to, I can't be polite with you anymore. The Bilker, he gets the message and he hands over the evidence to Batman. I'm going to turn the page. And it turns out to be a handwritten note from Bruce Wayne, and the stationery is from Bruce Wayne. Batman is reading this, so he's not immediately dismissing it as a forgery. He's reading like, whoa, this kind of looks a little familiar to me. This kind of looks like my handwriting. And did I write this? And that's what Batman is thinking. So he's really impressed. Now, there's one thing I should point out is that there are some indentations along the margins, kind of like a dot matrix printer. I don't think they existed in '72, but it sort of has that look to it. And that's one of the clues, because they always like throwing little clues to see whether their readers can figure it out or not. So anyway, Batman, he kind of, with a great deal of contempt, kind of throws the papers back to Bilker. So he's not Batman isn't like gonna like confiscate the letter. He's gonna let Bilker present it to the public. So he's kind of confused here because he sees this as a cheap trick and a clearly opportunism and clearly a forgery, but he has to admit this is a really good forgery. And I'm just going to have to kind of think about things as I'm investigating further. I'm going to turn the page. We see an ad here for Kenner, SSP. These are kind of one of those, they're race car things with the power strip that you would just manually strip and start the engine or the wheels going. The character is kind of like in a gladiator thing. So I don't remember being too into gladiators as a kid. I don't know which kids would find this appealing. Maybe the ones who kind of were like the pilot in Airplane. They have other characters called Moving Marvin and Knight Rider, who's a medieval knight here. So I'm going to turn the page, get back to the story. So Batman is alone. Now he's thinking out loud, and he's not sure what to do because on one hand, he sees both candidates as being terrible. And he's thinking that maybe if I can manipulate the events rather than simply trying to get down to the mystery, I can maybe get a third-party candidate to run because these two are going to be so corrupt. But Batman, he rejects that. He rejects that. And he's saying, listen, I'm into justice and solving problems. And, if it leads to a conclusion that I don't like, I have to accept it. So the thing is, he's going to figure out what's going on with Bilker and this forgery. He says, I know it's a forgery. I have to figure out how they forged it. And he's just going to let the pieces kind of fall. Now, Batman actually does have a good guess as to who might be behind it. And it's a guy called Osgood Peabody. He's kind of like a tinker character. And here we see him, he's working with a computer, actually building a computer, which used to be a thing. I was never good enough to do that, but I know people who did. And this guy's ahead of his time. You gotta hand it to Denny O'Neil here. So Batman confronts him because it looks like this guy has a really nice apartment. So he's corrupt and crooked, but he's bringing in the money. I'm gonna turn the page. Although he looks like, if you look like this guy, really, how much can you really enjoy that money? So anyway, he's startled by the appearance of the Batman in his home here. Batman says, listen, I have a few questions. I couldn't go through the front door. You might not have answered. And so I'm just going to take it upon myself to illegally enter your apartment. So it turns out the machine that Peabody is working on is actually a pen machine. The infamous pen machine that Donald Trump is obsessed with Joe Biden apparently using. an auto pen. So again, Denny O'Neil, gotta hand it to him. He is way ahead of his time because we do have this technology now. And Batman is showing off how it would work. For example, he would simply just type a message into the keyboard. Then the computer would be able to reproduce the exact strokes to create a message written in that particular handwriting. Batman, oddly enough, views this as kind of a toy. He's telling, listen, Peabody, you kind of have a nice little toy here. It's a little amusing. I guess maybe you thought you can have little kids come here and kind of like, little messages and have their parties here. But I don't really see any way to make money from this. And that's what Batman is saying. So this is the sort of the 1% mentality. If Batman thinks that, you can't make money from it, he's going to view it as a kind of like an amusing toy. I'm going to turn the page. Just a standard ad here. The kind of like these mini ads, like buy these novelty items. And turn the page. So then we go back to the story. Batman is confronting Peabody here, saying basically, this message that Bilker is going to show people, those dot matrix indentations came from your machine. So I'm going to expose Bilker as having a fraudulent letter from Bruce Wayne because the handwriting was done on this machine. Peabody, he panics. He says that he was forced to do it. They made him do it, and that he had to comply, and he had to comply. Peabody has the idea that if he destroys the machine, he can get out of this, since if the machine's destroyed, maybe I can get out of this. But also, he uses the opportunity to also strike out at the Batman, because Batman actually is physically touching the computer. Peabody pulls out an electrical cable, and he uses the cable to electrify the computer, which is electrifying Batman here. So Batman is kind of going through like this Neal Adams type of Kirby crackle. What Adams did, I think, was it was less crackle and more wavy, but this is the type of thing Neal Adams did. So Batman at this point is being electrocuted. The voltage isn't high enough to immediately kill him, but nevertheless he's feeling the pain here. He for some reason he can't remove his hand from the computer, even though I'm pretty sure it's not magnetized. Peabody is still whining about, I really don't want to hurt you, but I'm going to crack you over the head with this hard metal object. Just know, hey, dude, I really didn't want to do it, but hey, I'm still going to do it. Going to turn the page. Then we see Batman. The life is kind of waning out of him. And what happens is that the computer current it starts to drop. So we figure out the electrical cord probably ran out of power, because the thing is that the lab is now aflame. So electricity was reduced because of the growing flame here. So Batman is still in trouble. A lot of his strength has been kind of taken away here because he went through a lot with that electricity, and he's just quietly crawling out of this space. But the fire is really accelerating here. So it looks like Batman just missed being barbecued, and you see this moment here where Batman is catching his breath. This, This is a very human moment in comics because it's acknowledging that, hey, this physically took a lot out of this guy. And for him to stop and to take that breath to ready himself, kind of shows this guy really appreciates being alive. So he's Batman at this point. He's a little bit of he's going through a little bit of rehabilitation here. Then he has enough reserve energy to swing out of the building using his bat rope here. So at this point, Batman is fine. He's just simply gliding to safety because the building, or at least that top floor, is engulfed in flames. It looks like the towering inferno here. I'm going to turn the page. So next we see here that Batman is kind of thinking things out here. And he's saying, listen, it's kind of lucky I had gloves. As if gloves weren't something required. Like when he was designing his bat suit, he was thinking, do I really need gloves? No, you're always going to have gloves. However, they were insulated in a way that it kind of reduced a lot of the electricity. But he's also thinking, hey, I need to stop congratulating myself, particularly for the obvious. And so Batman, he's getting back into what he was investigating, the issues with Bilker and the other political boss. So anyway, Batman has an idea because he realizes that the evidence that he was going to use to prove that was a forgery, that evidence has been destroyed. So Batman has to think of something new because he knows who's guilty. He just can't prove it that way. We see Peabody. He's going into Bilker's office. He's quite shaken that he was visited by the Batman. So Peabody is acting kind of like how someone would realistically act if someone like the Batman were chasing him. Bilker is saying, "Don't worry, I'll protect you." Me and my bodyguard, who I still employ after getting his ass kicked by Batman, we're going to take care of you. And they tell him that they're gonna ship him or send him to Africa. So they're sending this elderly white man to a huge continent, and they're like, which part of Africa are you going to send me to? How now PayPal and electronic transfers didn't exist at this point, but nevertheless he's okay with this. He's like, okay, I'll go there. Hey, I'm an old white man. What could they possibly see in me to be angry about? Bilker's saying, okay, I'm going to take you there, and we're going to drive. So. Now, if they wanted to kill Bilker in the car, he would have been in the front passenger seat, but he's in the back passenger seat with Bilker. So they're not going to kill him in the car there, because that the passenger seat is kind of like the kill position, or the be killed position. Going to turn the page. So the car is being driven to the pier because the Peabody was told that you're going to go on a ship to Africa. I'm not even going to bother with airplane fare with you. And the ship will be there, which is extremely improbable. They tell the old guy, listen, the ship is here. The old guy is saying, I don't see a ship. There's no ship here. I don't understand. And then it has to be explained to him that the political boss lied to him. And that he's going to be finished here. So both Bilker and his bodyguard, they have a gun drawn to Peabody. Peabody realizes what's going to go on. He pleads for his life. This is very realistic behavior from this Peabody guy. But it turns out Batman is in the trunk of the car. Batman lets himself out, and then he jumps the two gunmen here. And turn the page. Oh, also I should mention that he tells Peabody to stop whining. So Batman's kind of annoyed with this guy. Peabody, he's groveling for his life. He's just whimpering here. He's just, I'm a young man of 82. Batman, this guy's really getting on his nerve because Batman is belting the bodyguard again, and the bodyguard is taken for a fall here, but all he can do is complain about Peabody's whining. And he's saying, listen, let me prove to you why I'm superior and why you made a terrible mistake. And he's saying, Peabody, this guy just looks down on you and you're nothing but a worm to him, just making Peabody feel terrible. The guy is groveling, he's begging, he's whining, and Batman's like, hey, let me make it a little worse for you. So he grabs Bilker, he throws Bilker at the bodyguard again, and the two smash into each other because the bodyguard was kind of numbed by Batman's blow, but he wasn't knocked out by it. So at this point, they're both in the Gotham City Bay here, and Batman is basically saying, "Good for your asses." Gonna turn the page. Okay, so we get to the end of the story. Osgood Peabody is just looking like a sad sack here. He's probably he's probably crying and blowing his nose. Batman is saying, "Listen, Commissioner, do me a solid. Get rid of this guy. I can't be bothered with him. His presence bothers me. His aura, it's just bothering me. I don't care anymore." Then we see Peabody. He's trying to thank Batman for saving him. So Peabody wasn't he was a corrupt guy, but he might not necessarily have been a professional crook. He didn't act like one. Batman is saying, listen, you're a jerk. You are a jerk, and I really don't care what you have to say. And you got what you wanted. The leopards ate your face. You wanted protection. Well, you got the protection you voted for. Commissioner Gordon talks to Batman as Batman is leaving about the candidates. And he's saying, listen, yeah, one of them will win because of this, but you know what? I don't see this as a victory in any way. And Batman's being a little, just kind of very nihilistic here, saying, listen, it just doesn't matter. The system doesn't change. No matter how many crooks I give concussions to, nothing gets fixed. Meanwhile, maybe Bruce Wayne should do a little bit more here. But nevertheless, we can see that Batman, he's kind of like, hey, listen, Commissioner, we really didn't win here. And Batman is saying that he needs to make a trip to South America. And then we turn the page. And we see why. Because apparently Bruce Wayne has been found. He was in the jungles of South America. Maybe he was looking to put a data center there. Maybe he was thinking, hey, I have an idea for a show. Maybe call it Survivor. Or maybe he's just like, listen, this is the only place I can go where I can hide my billions. But nevertheless, Bruce Wayne has been found, so now officially Bruce Wayne is alive and well, and he survived this jungle plane crash, and he kind of looks a lot like an unshaven John Hamm from Mad Men, and that's the end of the story. I thought it was a pretty good story. There was a lot of good emotion in it, and it was very well drawn. Okay, we see an in-house ad underneath. It's for Flash number 228. That was Neal was also working, and also Denny was working on those storylines. I had discussed those issues, And next is Justice League of America, number 109. Superman is declaring that that for the Earth to survive, one of us must die. And then Superman says, and by us, I mean you guys. So, so they're kind of the rest of the Justice League realizes that they might be on their own, and they're kind of deciding, well, we might have to sacrifice one of them. I think that's what Batman and Wonder Woman are discussing. And then Aquaman's looking really nervous, along with Red Tornado. And apparently they're going to be on sale in August. Turn the page. I'm going to look at this ad for baseball. It's the Stratomatic game. I guess this is the start of following, I guess, those Saber numbers. I was a big baseball fan for decades. I don't really follow it anymore. But I was never really that into the numbers. And I have to admit that when things became decided by, war and their numbers, I kind of would just tune those out. And I kind of looked at the traditional numbers. They're talking about a lot of good players here, great players. Roberto Clemente, who is still alive at this time, he sadly was killed in a plane crash on a humanitarian trip. So yeah, that was a terrible tragedy. He's still well remembered in New York, and even his sons were kind of well known because because they loved the dad so much. Willie McCovey, Fergie Jenkins, I remember those guys. Nolan Ryan, of course. And they're talking about the National League versus the American League. And they're talking about a matchup between Vida Blue and Tom Seaver. And in this matchup, I don't think they knew that the 1973 World Series would actually have this matchup. So this matchup that someone just kind of randomly thought of actually was a prediction that came true. Can turn the page. So we're going to get into the B story. This is the Robin story. And the title is Who Stole the Gift from Nowhere? The creative team is Elliot Magden. I found him to be a pretty good writer. And the art is by Irv Novak and Dick Giordano. The art is pretty good. I had reviewed an issue of The Flash, which Irv put a shit effort in. But but Irv put some work into this. This wasn't rushed. This is a well-drawn story. So we see there's a package. It was mailed. It's being mailed to the library fund at Hudson University in New Carthage. That's in New York, I think, upstate New York. Gotham was always an analog for New York City. And we see there's a large sum of money in here, like a huge, like as in Nigerian scammer, romance scam money, and then it's being replaced by strips of newspapers in the size of the dollar bills. So the person is taking out the money, the real money, and then to clown this person, they're going to put fake money in there, kind of to really rub it in, like I stole your stuff and let me mock you for it. Then the package is closed, and we see that these are gloved hands here. Next, we see Robin. Robin's on his e-bike, I guess, and his motorcycle. Again, he made for a strange hero in that his costume was absolutely ridiculous looking, but it was so iconic you couldn't really imagine Robin looking any other way. And they did try a few times to sort of change his look. But the thing is, again, it was so iconic. Like, as much as I make fun of how Robin looks, I would not want him any other way. So we see him rushing towards somewhere. Turn the page. Next, we see Dick Grayson Dick Grayson. He's in class. He's talking to one of his friends here. Dick had a lot of friends in college. Dick kind of had he did have a kind of a tight circle, but Dick was really well liked in school. So he's a pretty well adjusted guy. He has lots of confidence though, and they're talking about this assignment, and apparently it's an article that Dick wrote about a tutoring program for kids. So it's kind of like one of these early kind of like coding camps. And Dick wants to talk about that. Then two more of Dick's friends come in. One of them is a pretty redhead. I don't know the names yet. There's another person called Starling, and he's wearing kind of this pink safari jacket. And it turns out he's the editor. So technically he's the guy that Dick has to report to for stories. So he's the guy who decides what gets published and how it gets published. He wants to print an editorial, but the thing is, the guy who copyrights and approves that, he's looking at it and saying this is gibberish. This is absolute nonsense that makes no sense whatsoever. But Starling he overrides him, saying, "Listen, I'm the boss. I'm allowed to be weird and vague," and that's basically his argument. He's saying, "Listen, I'm your fucking boss. Just do what I asked you. Damn it." We see the Diane. She's answering the phone. Apparently, there's something urgent. Again, these are very well drawn panels here. Diane is saying that Luke is on the phone. So apparently this is sort of really important that Starly talked to Luke. Starly's listening. He's listening intently to what Luke has to say. And he's giving a dollar amount, $50,000. And he's saying he's going to be right over. Dick is hearing this. Obviously, he can kind of figure out, hey, this has maybe Robin should be involved in this issue. Going to turn the page. So we see Diane and Dick. They're both following Starly out. Diane notices that Starly is a bit nervous, and she doesn't understand what's going on, but she wants to be helpful. So she's saying, "Listen, hey, dude, do you want to talk things out? You kind of look a little shaken." But Starly's like saying, "No. This is what's going on. Luke's been arrested for grand larceny and tampering with the mails." So Luke was explaining that he was kind of like in legal trouble, and that's what caught Starly's attention. So he's being upfront with both Dick and Diane, saying, "Listen, I kind of have to try to bail this guy out." Robin, this is enough for Dick to change into Robin. And he realizes, hey, I really need to be involved in this case. So he gets into his costume, he gets onto his motorcycle, and he encounters Starly as Starly was, I guess, going to the jailhouse where Luke is being held. And Robin's saying, "Listen, I've been to that place often. You can ride on the back of my motorcycle, and I'll take you there." Now, Starly's kind of maybe a little initially worried, hey, am I going to be seen as Robin's bitch if I'm on the back of his motorcycle? I'm like, and I am wearing that pink safari jacket. But he's like, "Listen, no, I'm kind of like secure enough in my manhood, and I'll ride with you, Robin." So Starly gets the back of Robin's motorcycle, and he's explaining that Luke has to be innocent of these charges, saying Luke is just too much of a good guy. And he's also telling Robin, or Robin is recapping what he knows about what was going on. Apparently there was a theft from the University Library Fund. So the money that we saw earlier was intended for the fund. It was stolen by someone who had access to that envelope. And they're saying that basically this Luke fit the profile. Luke had he was the one who had opportunity. There was physical evidence that he touched that envelope. So we have to surmise that, hey, Luke did it. So they go to police headquarters. The sergeant behind the desk, he's explaining the case to Robin, what they know. And he's basically saying, listen, we know this package of money was due here. And we figured that, and we know that Luke somehow learned of this, so he knew in advance. And he has, everything points to this Luke guy. And then, but they allowed two of them to see Luke. So Robin and Starley, they're being led into the jail cell. So Luke can kind of explain what's going on. Going to turn the page. Luke kind of looks like Roy Thomas. And Luke is kind of saying, listen, we think this is a frame-up. But Luke is like, hey, listen, if the police said I did it, I did it. And he doesn't want to put up a fight. So Starley is looking for reasons why Luke would be innocent, but Luke is like saying, really, it's not a big deal, Robin just straight out asks Luke whether he stole the money or not. Luke is saying, no, I did not steal the money. What would I do with $50,000? Robin's saying, how come your fingerprints were on the envelope? Luke doesn't want to talk about it. So Luke is kind of climbing up at this point. Then we see Robin and Starley. They leave the cell because they figure we're not going to get any more information out of this guy. He's not really helping us. I think Starley's going to stay by Luke here. But Robin's saying, listen, I have to go places here. So, but Robin is leaving early because he figures out, hey, listen, I think I know how I can prove Luke is innocent. So Robin, he looks at the evidence, which is the envelope, the package, and the newspaper clippings in the shape of dollar bills. And Robin is putting the newspapers together, and he's noticing a lot of out-of-town newspapers. A place that sold international newspapers. So there are lots of newsstands, but there are only a few of them that would have papers from other countries. So Robin feels that he knows where to look to figure out who had done this. Going to turn the page. Just a bodybuilding ad, nothing special. Turn the page. So Robin he investigated, and then he came back to pick up Starley. So I guess Starley stayed with Luke for a while. And Starley is describing Luke, saying he's basically a guy that stays to himself, but he's a good kid. He's a really nice guy, and this is not like him at all. Then they drive to Diane's, where Diane is. I think Diane might have been still in the office. Then Starley says that Robin gave him a lead. So Robin's a little ticked that Starley kind of snitched him out. He did that dry snitching. So Starley didn't mean to be malicious. This is an example of being a dry snitch, and also being a little main character. So Robin's a little ticked that he felt that his what he said was taken out of context, saying that, listen, I kind of said a little bit too much because you were being an annoying dick to me, and I wanted to shut you up, so I kind of like engaged with you a little bit. But really, dude, You shouldn't have taken it that way. You're not that important. So I require you to stop, saying shit like this. That's what Robin's saying. Then we see Robin. He's inspired by the Batman. We see a kind of an image of the Batman, a little cross-eyed, cross-eyed Batman. He's kind of like watching Robin with approval. So Batman, he's not there, but he's inspiring Robin. Robin has that steely-eyed look of someone who's determined to solve a crime while looking absolutely ridiculous. So Robin is talking to the clerk here, and apparently this is a librarian, but apparently the library has a newspaper subscription service. So the thing is that this guy would be handling papers, international newspapers. And he's asking him, give me a list of those newspapers. He produces the list, and Robin looks at it and he says, yeah, I saw newspaper clippings from all of these sources. So those newspapers came from this location here. I'm going to turn the page. Robin kind of figures out, he kind of questions the clerk, saying, have you seen this before? Showing him an example of the evidence. The clerk who is guilty of this, he immediately jumps to the conclusion that he has to get rid of Robin physically. So he grabs a huge book and he attempts to strike Robin with it. Robin's quick reflexes dodges the book for the most part, but nevertheless, this gives the clerk the opportunity to run away. Robin then recovers. He's chasing after the clerk here. The clerk they're running through this rural area here. So I'm guessing this chase went on for a long time because they're not in the city anymore. And then there's apparently a cliff here, and there's a single tree here, and the guy runs past the tree, and he falls down the cliff. So the clerk who was running from Robin, he put himself in a worse situation. Robin sees this, and he ties a rope around that tree. And I'm going to turn the page, and we see an ad. This is an ad for patches. I remember these patches. They had a Confederate flag one, for God's sake. I mean, come on. Oh, God, the kid who wore that. And then there's Felix the Cat and Popeye. Some of them are cool, like the SPT one. And a few others. You can turn the page. So anyway, Robin, he uses the rope and he swings down, and he's able to catch the clerk's body just before it hits the ground. So the clerk has been saved because then Robin swings him around and brings him back to safety here. So this was a successful rescue by Robin. Robin lands on his feet. The clerk, he's knocked to the ground. So at this point, there's no way he can outrun or do anything physical against Robin at this point. And apparently the motivation was that the college was going to cut the library program. And that's the reason why this guy took the money. He's saying, listen, the college is going to get rid of my job. So fuck them. I'm going to grab this money for myself. And this is going to be my severance pay. And Robin is saying, listen, maybe if you allowed the college to have that money could have been used to save your job. So Robin is saying that, but the clerk is saying, listen, they were going to fire me anyway. So honestly, I don't see that goody reality actually happening. Robin, he's a little pissed off. he tells the other students around him to say, "Can you watch this clown?" I have no idea why so many college students would be around that cliff at this point. But nevertheless, this explains why Robin can walk off and do something and have them watch over the assailant. Gonna turn the page. So anyway, we see the police station. The sergeant at the desk, he's taking down the statements of what's going on, and Robin is saying, "Listen, this is what this guy did. We have evidence that he did it, and we want you to charge him with this crime." And then Robin has a little bit of contempt for this guy, saying, "Listen, I had almost nothing on this guy, and this dumbass gave up the entire game." That's what Robin is saying. Thanks to this dumbass, it was really easy to wrap up this crime. Then we see Luke was released from jail because of this, because it was this clerk who had taken the money, not Luke. And Robin is kind of calling the credit card company in Switzerland to figure out who is the source of this donation, because the library got the $50,000 into their library fund, but who is the donor of that money? And that's what Robin is going to figure out. Luke is getting nervous about this. The other two, Starling and Diane, they're kind of interested in what Robin is doing. And then Luke admits that he was the one who sent that donation. And that's why his fingerprints were on the envelope. Then it turns out that Luke is admitting that his family is super rich, like really, really rich, filthy, dirty rich. And the library needed the money, so he contacted a bank in Switzerland to send that donation in, and that this way the college would get the donation, but it wouldn't reveal who was the one who donated. It's just an anonymous donator. I'm going to turn the page. And I should say it's a very well drawn comic here. So it turns out Luke was kind of like cosplaying as being poor. And he had presented himself as kind of like a middle class kid who was there on scholarship. So basically, Luke took a scholarship that might have gone to a poor family. And he's saying, "Listen, I just didn't want to be treated differently because I have money. So I had to do this more damaging thing by taking the hopes and dreams of someone, that I'm pretending to be." And he just wanted to be liked for who he was, and not because he had money. I knew a kid, and kids only liked him because his family had money, and he was a real jerk off. Robin, he's listening to this 1% whining. He doesn't like the idea. Robin came from a rich family. He's saying, "Listen, you got it flaunted. Don't pretend. Don't pretend you're from a different economic bracket here." So Robin's 1% ideas of being offended here. Starling, he's listening to Luke's confession about what was going on. Then they notice Robin is gone, and they're like saying, "Hey, listen, why didn't he stick around for the conclusion? He just left at this point." And they're just discussing, why would a guy why would Robin exist? Why would someone like this, exist in our world? And And then Diane, and she quotes Ernest Hemingway by saying, someone said once, the world is a fine place and worth fighting for. Then they noticed that was a Hemingway quote. They're really impressed with Diane. Hey, good for Diane. And they're saying, listen, who would have thought that you as an art student and a girl would know a Hemingway quote? And yeah, everyone's leaving on a good end. Even Robin. Robin's kind of enjoying this, his version of that in the back of his mind. And then we're told that the next issue of Batman will be out in October 19th. And yeah, that's it for the comic. Take a look at an ad. It's, again, for architecture and some like football stuff here. So I'm going to go to letters to the Batman. I believe these were all complimentary. They're talking about issue number 242. And this first letter, he's really happy about what they've done. They kind of quietly reset the story where now it's like really interesting. Because this is just, as the Ra's al Ghul storyline was progressing. So yeah, Russell really likes what they're doing, and Editorial's saying, "Hey, thanks." The second one is again also complimentary, talking about Ra's al Ghul and what's going on there. And yeah, he really likes what Denny O'Neil is doing. So he's also talking about Herb Novak and Dick Giordano's contributions. The last letter, again, talking about Ra's al Ghul, and they're talking about why Bruce Wayne had to pretend that he's dead. So I think Richard is trying to kind of figure out where this storyline was going, and he liked it. And I think this last one was by David Michelin, who became a comic book writer a decade later. And he liked it. He liked what was going on in this comic. Okay, so there were a lot of satisfied Batman readers. And that's it. And that's my review of Batman number 245. And I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.